Hey guys, if you want to move to the Las Vegas Metro, but you want that really rural, really isolated, mountain style, outdoor type of living, then this video is for you. In today's video, we're going to be going over the pros and cons of living in Mount Charleston, Las Vegas, or Mount Charleston, Nevada, however you want to put it, guys. And we're going to go over transportation times. We're going to go over some cost data. We're going to talk about the size of the community, amenities, all that sort of stuff, guys. And by the end of this video, you should know whether living in Mount Charleston is for you or not. So stay tuned because we're getting after it right now. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Living in Las Vegas. My name's Tom, and in today's video, we're going to be talking all about the pros and cons of living in Mount Charleston, Nevada, which we'll talk a little bit first about where exactly that is and what Mount Charleston is. So Mount Charleston, as the actual mountain, is the 8th highest mountain in Nevada, sitting at about 11,916 feet. But as a community, it is a small community, few hundred residents, and they live near Mount Charleston in the Spring Mountains recreation area to the northwest or directly to the west, kind of depending on how you look at the map and what area you're talking about, of Las Vegas. So it's a very rural style of living. You know, you're literally living in the mountains. I mean, you got paved roads and all that sort of thing. It's not like dirt roads and gravel roads or anything like that, but it's definitely very quiet, definitely a lot more isolated than a lot of Las Vegas. So if you're thinking about moving here, today we're going to be talking all about the pros and cons of Mount Charleston. Like I said, guys, living in Mount Charleston is pretty isolating from the rest of the Las Vegas area. I mean, I kind of called it the Las Vegas Metro earlier, but I would say honestly, I mean, it's not really part of the Metro. It is part of Las Vegas, but it's not really part of the Metro, right? Because it's pretty well isolated. But I think that is one of the most important cons, or excuse me, most important pros. We'll talk about cons later. Most important pros to consider. If you really want a quiet, isolated area to live in, then Mount Charleston is probably number one or maybe number two most important areas to consider in Las Vegas. And that's because it's a 45-minute drive outside of the city. Yeah, you get tourists and stuff going up there, but there aren't that many residents. You know, it's very well within nature, a ton of trees, higher elevation. You know, you get to have deer and all sorts of other stuff in your backyard. You're not going to find any concerts going on. There aren't going to be a bunch of fireworks. You're not going to hear a bunch of police sirens and fire trucks and ambulances. There's not going to be a bunch of planes flying over. You don't even have that many neighbors. So as far as neighbors making a lot of noise, there's way less traffic than every other area of Las Vegas. So if you really want that quiet area, maybe you're retiring, maybe you're buying a second home and you really want a retreat from your life in Las Vegas, or a retreat from your life in some other part of the country. You know, this could be a second vacation home, something like that. Mount Charleston is really high on the list of places you need to be considering because of how quiet and how isolated it is. So if that's what you're looking for, make sure you check out Mount Charleston. Next pro, guys, you're literally surrounded by nature. Now, I've said this in a bunch of videos talking about how Nevada is like 85% public land, and you know, that's your land to access and to use for outdoor recreation. But Mount Charleston takes that to a whole nother level. You live in Mount Charleston, what I mean surrounded by nature, I mean there's way more trees, way more wildlife, just way more green in general. And a lot of these homes, guys, you can leave your house and boom, walk right onto hiking trails, start hiking the South Loop, hiking the North Loop, Trail Canyon, or you know, a ton of other trails. So if you want to be able to walk out of your house and bam, be smack dab in the middle of some real nature, there's actually some wilderness area up there, guys. So for those of you who don't know what wilderness area is, it's just a special designation. There's no roads, it's walk-in only, so no bikes, that sort of stuff. It's just extremely isolating. It's not necessarily super far. Like you can live in Mount Charleston and be, you know, only a mile or two away from where the wilderness area begins. But if you want to be, you know, really well within that nature, and you really want to be able to walk out of your house and bam, nature, or you want to be able to have amazing nature views with lots of green, lots of trees, maybe you want to see some snow, this is the place to live. There really isn't another option. in Las Vegas, if you really want to be submerged in nature, you want to have that snow, you want to have those colder temperatures, and we'll talk about a bunch of other pros. But if that's what you're looking for, you want to see wildlife, then then Mount Charleston is really the number one area in Las Vegas to look, and there really isn't another option as far as living directly in nature. Next pro on the list, and this is going to be by far probably the number one pro for most people, the temperature. Because living at Mount Charleston, there's such an elevation difference, right? So where I live in Las Vegas, I live at about 2,200 feet. If you were to buy a home in the Mount Charleston community, you're looking at like 7,000 or 8,000 feet of living, or maybe a little bit lower than that. But there's a huge difference in temperature between 2,200 feet in the Mojave Desert versus 8,000 feet in Mount Charleston. Huge difference. I mean, 20, maybe even 30 degrees cooler on some days, and at night those temperatures can really plummet quickly. So if you want to live near Las Vegas but you hate the heat, but you still want to have access to McCarran International Airport because it's a huge international airport, you will still want to have access to the Strip and all the entertainment and nightlife, and you still want access to all those amenities that Las Vegas has to offer, you still want to live close to LA but you don't want to live in California, Mount Charleston should be super high on your list because it offers all of that. Plus, like I said, temperatures are way cooler. My friends and I, my family and I, we go up to Mount Charleston all of the time to get away from the summer heat. It might be 100, 110 degrees down in the valley, but you get up to Mount Charleston, you're looking at 80 and 90 degree temperatures, which is an enormous difference. You're still going to see way less humidity. You are going to see some more rain and precipitation up there, but you're not going to see a ton of humidity like you're going to see in other parts of the country. So it's still going to be very dry, very comparable to the rest of the Las Vegas Valley, but it's going to be way less hot. Your air conditioning is going to be working way less hard. You're not going to be sweating bullets. If you have young kids, you don't have to worry so much about taking them outside in the heat. If you have animals, same thing. You don't have to worry nearly as much about taking them outside. You're still going to get those beautiful sunny days on a consistent basis. Still going to get low humidity. Still going to get 0 to maybe just a little bit of cloud cover. But you're going to have all that green. It's going to be way cooler, and it's just way more enjoyable to be out in the summer up in Mount Charleston than it is down in Las Vegas. Next pro, the ability to enjoy all 4 seasons. So if you're moving from somewhere that actually has 4 seasons, maybe you're moving from Seattle, maybe you're moving from the Northeast, or some other like northern part of the United States where you get snow, so you get a very defined winter, you get a very defined spring, very defined summer, and defined fall, all characterized by different temperatures, different weather conditions. Then that's what you really want, again, really there's no other place in the Las Vegas area that compares to Mount Charleston, because you're going to have a much more differentiated winter than you are summer, and same thing with spring and fall. This temperature changes, what happens to the environment, to the nature, all that sort of stuff, the changes in precipitation, the snow, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you are going to have much more 4-season living, and you're still going to be able to enjoy all 4 of those seasons on a very regular basis. Now we'll talk, we're going to go straight into another pro, which I think is being able to enjoy like snow sports, skiing. So Lee Canyon, another part of Mount Charleston, I believe you can live up near Lee Canyon as well, but there's an actual ski resort up there with tubing, snowboarding, skiing, all that sort of stuff, hiking trails that also ties into that area as well. So if you really love to ski and you're thinking, man, if I move to Las Vegas, I could drive all the way to Utah, or I have to drive all the way to Mammoth, or some other place, maybe you have to go to the Snow Bowl in just north of Flagstaff in Arizona. All amazing places to ski. However, you don't have to go to those places to ski and snowboard on a regular basis. Mount Charleston, or the Spring Mountains as a whole in southern Nevada, on a very regular basis, get a ton, feet and feet of snow every year in winter, which makes skiing and snowboarding for months at a time very doable, very possible. The resort up there sees a ton of guests, sees a ton of locals, sees a ton of tourists who are coming to the city and who are just surprised, like, wow, I'm here in January and I can't believe I can ski in Las Vegas. It's not really that well known, but like I said, Mount Charleston area, the Spring Mountain area that Mount Charleston sits within, gets a lot of snow, gets a defined winter, defined spring, fall, and summer. So if you want that 4-season living, if you want to enjoy those snow sports while still being close to Las Vegas, you don't want to have to drive all over the place, then could definitely consider Mount Charleston. Or even if you consider another area of the city, which I have some videos on, go check those out. You can still drive up to Mount Charleston and enjoy those 4 seasons. You just won't be living in those 4 seasons. You can still drive up to Mount Charleston and enjoy the snow. You just won't be living in the snow. So consider that, guys. If you're moving here, you can still get that 4 seasons of living. It's not just crazy hot every single day of the year all the time. Next pro, guys, is talking about kind of transportation times and access to the airport. But before we do that, please, if you haven't already, go down below, smash that like button. It really helps me in the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you subscribe and also press that notification bell so that you get notified every single time I put out a new video, because I hate for you to miss anything. And as always, guys, if you need help, if you have comments, concerns, maybe you're moving here, maybe you're living here already and you want to find a new house, or you want to find a new house, whatever the case may be, guys, my contact information is down in the description. I'm getting reach outs all the time. I'm never too busy for you to reach out. So please call, text, email me, however you want to get in touch. I'd be happy to help you. With that, guys, let's talk about how living in Mount Charleston keeps you access to that rural lifestyle, but at the same time, you still have access to McCarran International Airport to fly, wherever you want. Now, I don't talk about this too much when I talk about other areas of the city, because you're well within the city of Las Vegas. Of course, you have easy access to the airport, but because you live in those other areas, you've kind of already chosen that city style living. For those who want that rural style living, if you live in Mount Charleston, you're still going to be 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on traffic, away from McCarran International Airport. So when people come visit you, or if you want to go visit friends and family, maybe you're retiring in Mount Charleston, but you have grandchildren in another state, it's still really easy to access the airport. It's not a 2-hour drive. It's not a 3-hour drive. You don't have to drive to a different airport or something like that. It's still very easy to get into the city for groceries, to go shopping at the outlets or the mall. Yeah, it's a little bit of a longer drive, but honestly, I think the pros of living in Mount Charleston outweigh a lot of the cons. Personally, if I could live there, I would already be living there, but unfortunately my wife doesn't want to be driving every single day to work from Mount Charleston, which I can understand. But if you don't have to do that, it's still really easy to access all parts of Las Vegas within an hour. It's still easy to get down to your flights, go to other areas. Maybe you like to travel and you want that nice rural quiet home to come back to and just decompress and isolate yourself. Mount Charleston is an amazing place to do that. I cannot recommend it enough, guys. So if that's what you're looking for, don't think living in Mount Charleston is going to isolate you from the rest of the world and the rest of the Las Vegas area, because it's just not. It's still a pretty easy drive. Next pro, guys, incredible views. Again, you're not going to find this in any other parts of the city. I will say, for those of you that don't know, yes, Las Vegas is surrounded by mountains on all 4 sides. So you're going to have somewhat of a mountain view from almost every area of the city. But when I say mountain view, I mean the mountains might be 10, 12 miles off. So they're not really huge on the skyline. You're not getting a lot of definition in the mountains. You're like picking out individual trees. You're not going to be able to see wildlife from 10 miles away, that sort of thing. However, if you live in Mount Charleston, you are going to experience incredible views. Whether you're driving to your house, whether you're leaving your house and heading down to the city, you're going to experience incredible views on both of those drives. You're going to probably experience a pretty incredible view just from your living room, depending on what exact area of Mount Charleston you live in, and where your house is in relation to the canyon and elevation and all that sort of stuff. So if you want a view and you don't mind paying a little extra for it, you want to be able to see nature, to see wildlife, to have an amazing view of the Las Vegas Valley, to have an amazing view of, actual trees, and just to be really close and, excuse me, intimately involved with the mountains and nature. And there's no other place to really do that in Las Vegas. You're definitely going to want to look at Mount Charleston, because like I said, those views, they cannot be beat, and that's the highest elevation area you're going to be able to live in all of Las Vegas. So there's really no better place to see the surrounding area than Mount Charleston. And the final pro, guys, before we get to the cons, is going to be Mount Charleston offers a wide variety of homes for you to choose from. Now, it's important to consider that there aren't like a ton of, there's not 20,000 people that live there, so there aren't 20,000 homes to choose from. But I just pulled up the MLS the other day, multiple listing service. That's what realtors use to, look at homes for sale. And I was just looking at it, and there were a bunch of homes available some even empty lots available for you to build on that varied widely in price from just a few $100,000 all the way up to several $1,000,000. So depending on your price point, whether this is a second home, whether it's your full-time home, a vacation home, a luxury rental, I mean, whatever you guys want to do exactly with this property you're thinking about purchasing, there are going to be a wide variety of options for you to choose from. Now, again, I preface this with the fact that it's not a huge community, so you're not going to have, a 20,000 different options to choose from, or 5,000 options, or you're not going to have an enormous range. But as far as price points, you're still going to have multiple price points to choose from. I don't want you to think it's all luxury homes or it's all 2-bedroom, 1-bath cabins, because it's not. There's some gorgeous homes available, 2-3-story homes, from very modern designs to very like log cabinish designs. It really just depends on what you're looking for and how much time you have to shop around, that sort of thing. So depending on what you're looking for, maybe you don't know what you're looking for, or maybe you're interested in a home that's off market at this time, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you do some research, and I'd be happy to get in touch with some property owners for you to kind of see maybe they'd be willing to sell, or maybe they'd be willing to rent to you, or any number of other things, depending on what you're looking for in the Mount Charleston area. And with that, guys, let's move on to the cons. And the first con is going to be, now while this area is, relatively quiet and isolated from the rest of Las Vegas, because the temperatures are so much cooler, because it's probably the number 1 or number 2 hiking destination in the area, and because it has so much wildlife, these three things combined, Mount Charleston is one of the most heavily touristed and local residented, I should say, places in the entire area. And what I mean by that is local residents, tourists, anyone nearby, even people from out of state, people from Reno, love to come to Mount Charleston to hike, to hunt, to fish, to drive their off-road vehicles, to camp, whatever the case may be. They love to do that in that area. So while it is isolating and that sort of thing, on some days, on some parts of the year, especially in winter when the snow hits, people love to go up and enjoy the snow. Or in those peak parts of the summer when it's really hot, it can be difficult to find parking. Not at your house, because you obviously own those parking spots, but it's some of like the hiking trails and stuff like that, because it's very popular. Tourists and local residents they want to come up, they want to enjoy the hiking, they want to enjoy those lower temperatures, they want to come camping with their kids and have picnics and throw birthday parties. There's RV camping for people that are traveling. So if you don't really like having tourists and a lot of local residents in your area, you might want to consider maybe a different part of Mount Charleston. Maybe you want to think about Cold Creek, which is another community which is even more rural, which is to the north of Mount Charleston. Maybe I'll put a video on that. Comment below if you want me to put out a video on Cold Creek and living up there, the homes up there. But it can definitely see some high volume of traffic. Now, you're not going to get into traffic jams or anything like that, because you're not going to see that much traffic. But there are days when there are, hundreds, if not thousands of people that are heading up there to hike and to enjoy the temperatures, but especially enjoy the snow, maybe at the ski resort up at Lee Canyon. So if that's something you can't deal with, consider living in maybe a different part of the mountains, maybe a different part of the city, or maybe Cold Creek, or some other communities that are close by, but that just aren't as popular for a few different reasons that I'll probably explain in those later videos. If you have any questions about the traffic and that sort of thing, guys, please reach out to me. I'm up there all the time, whether it's winter or summer. I'd be happy to help answer any questions you had. Next con on the list, guys, I've been talking about snow, but because of the elevation, the topography of these spring mountains in the Mount Charleston area, you are going to get a significant amount of snow in the winter. Now, I used to live on the East Coast, Pennsylvania specifically, just south of Erie, and I thought we got a lot of snow, and then I went to college in upstate New York, and we got even more snow out there. And I can say with confidence that Mount Charleston area gets even more snow than like a Lake Erie or an upstate New York kind of vibe, specifically Rochester, where I was going to school. So it's massive amounts of snow. They do have snow plows. People come up and clear the roads. It's paved roads. It's not like it's unmanaged or anything like that. You don't have to plow the road yourself, but you might have to, or you probably will have to shovel your driveway or get someone to plow it for you, shovel out your parking spaces. and you got to worry about how the snow is going to affect your home, all that sort of stuff. Of course, the homes built in Mount Charleston are not built like the homes in the rest of the Las Vegas Valley. They're built with expecting that snowfall in mind, expecting the more precipitation and the rain and the wind and all those other conditions that don't really occur in the rest of the Las Vegas Valley, but do occur at Mount Charleston. So if you want to live near Vegas, you want nature, you want all this stuff, but you don't want all that snow, then you're going to want to consider living at a lower elevation between Mount Charleston and Las Vegas. You're still going to get a lot of that nature. It's still going to be more green. You're still going to have more trees, and you're still going to be closer to all the hiking and outdoor recreation availability that Mount Charleston and the Spring Mountains offer. But you're going to be a little bit closer to Las Vegas as far as amenities and drive time goes, and you're going to see less snow. You'll probably still see some snow, but you're not going to see like 3 feet overnight. I remember sometimes looking at the weather report from Mount Charleston, thinking about, oh, maybe we should go up. You know, it'd be like January, February. Hey, maybe we should go up, take the kids up, and then you read the weather report, and it's just an absolute blizzard up there, and they're getting like, inches per hour and a couple feet over the last few hours. So if you can't handle that much snow, if you want to move somewhere where it's a little bit warmer, you still get that nature, you kind of want to retire in like a nice quiet environment, just live at a lower elevation, or live at maybe closer to Red Rock. Maybe you want to live in Summerlin or some other parts of the mountains on the western edge of Las Vegas. You can still get a lot of the same feel, very similar views, but you won't get as much snow and it won't get as cold. Third con, guys, is going to be drive time for services. Now, I know I talked about how I didn't think the drive time was really that big of a deal, but that's coming from the perspective of someone who would be living in Mount Charleston but doesn't drive to the city every day or even every other day. If you're living in Mount Charleston and you have to commute to the city for work every day, that can easily turn into a 45-minute drive or more, depending on where you live in the city, depending on what time you're driving to that part of the city or driving back to your house, and depending on traffic. So if you want to live in Mount Charleston full time, but you're going to be if you want to live in Mount Charleston full time, but you want to work somewhere in the Las Vegas metro, maybe North Las Vegas, maybe Summerlin, maybe Paradise, maybe the Jones area, whatever the case may be, guys, make sure you factor those drive times in to the equation, because I could definitely see you're going to be burning an hour or more just driving to and from work every day, or to and from your business that you own, whatever the case may be. So I know that's probably a deal breaker to some people. The nearest grocery store to Mount Charleston, I think, is like a 35-minute drive from the city, and I believe it's a Smith's, from Mount Charleston. I believe it's a Smith's right off Interstate 95 that's heading towards Reno. So if you can deal with that, and you're cool with 35-minute drive to the grocery store once or twice a week or once every 2 weeks, then maybe Mount Charleston's for you. But if you're going to be looking at an hour and a half drive to work every day and an hour and a half drive back, that might be a deal breaker for some people. Just consider it, guys. This is a pros and cons video, so there are a lot of pros, a lot of cons. Personally, I love the idea of living in Mount Charleston, but I'm lucky enough that my job doesn't require me to leave my home every single day. So it's really up to you guys. If you have any questions about drive times or commuting or anything like that in the Las Vegas area, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. Next con is going to be the limited number of homes. I talked a little bit about this in the pros. I alluded to it, but because there's only a few hundred residents of Mount Charleston year-round, there isn't a huge number of homes that are for sale. Now, there are homes that are for sale, and they do come in various price points from a few $100,000 all the way up to several $1,000,000. So there is something for everybody depending on your price point. But there's just not that much variety. There might only be 10 $400,000 homes, and it's easy to look at 10 homes and say, I'm not really in love with any of them. And if that's the case, no matter what your price point, then you'd kind of be out of luck, because homes don't come on the market in Mount Charleston that often, because there's just not a huge demand for homes in the area, because like I said, there aren't that many people living there. But it's a very purpose-driven area to live. You really have to want that style of living to buy that home. So it's not an area where people are buying homes and selling homes often. So if you're thinking about moving there, I definitely recommend start looking for a home as far as you can in advance. you can reach out to me. I'm happy to do video tours, neighborhood videos for you if you don't live in the area, or if you do live in the area, great, get pre-approved and we'll start looking at homes as soon as possible. But because there aren't that many homes available, since that many people don't live there, you're going to be a little bit limited on the number of homes you're actually able to pick from. So if you're thinking about moving there, just consider that and make sure you factor that into your decision. Next con, guys, Mount Charleston is definitely not the cheapest place to live in the Las Vegas metro. It's not the most expensive place either, but it's not the cheapest. So I just looked at the homes available. There are about 23 homes available in the one section of Mount Charleston that's probably the most popular. And only 4 of those were under $405,000. Right now, the median home price in Las Vegas is $405,000. So if you're looking for that more affordable, budget-friendly home, maybe first-time home buyer price kind of home, Mount Charleston's really not going to be the area for you because, like I said, only 4 of the 23 results were lower than the median. And the rest of them were above 405, all the way up to several $1 million. So if you're looking for that budget-friendly home, I would say probably look other areas of the city. Your next best option would be the Northwest or North Las Vegas, maybe more part of like the downtown area of Las Vegas. I mean, I personally recommend North Las Vegas because it's one of the closer areas to Mount Charleston. You still get some of those mountain views. You can still get some suburban living, not rural, but you can still get some pretty suburban living going on, and you're pretty close drive, about 37 minutes to the farthest, most remote point of Mount Charleston where you could possibly live. And I think 37-minute drive is not bad. Even if you're visiting every weekend, that's still not too bad. So take a look at some other areas of the city if you really need that budget, more affordable home. But if you're looking for a higher price point home, you like that quiet, isolated nature feel of Mount Charleston, then maybe it's for you. Reach out to me. We'll do some research together. All right, guys, we're on to the last con here. And before we talk about that, if you haven't already, please go down below, like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you get notified every time I put out a new video. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, maybe you're living in Mount Charleston already and you stumbled across this video, please put your comment down there below and talk about what it's like living up there, moving there, maybe moving away from there, things you didn't like, things you liked. I'm always looking to learn from my audience, and anything you put down in the comment section, everybody sees, so it helps everybody, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you put in the comment section as well. But if you guys are moving here, maybe you live in Las Vegas already, you just want to live in a different part, please reach out to me. I get reach outs all the time, but I'm never too busy for yours, never too busy to help you. With that, guys, let's move on to the last con. And this is kind of a con for people who already live there. Maybe you already own a home, or even if you're looking for a home. We kind of talked about this in the last con, but there isn't really a high demand for homes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're looking for a home, because it means the homes that are already there aren't flying off the shelf. But if you already own a home there, maybe you buy this year and you want to keep that home for 10 years. 10 years from now, there's a good chance there still won't be a huge demand for those homes. Because like I said earlier, it's a very specific style of living. The people that buy a home in Mount Charleston really want that style of living. It's a very conscious choice versus living, in the Las Vegas metro, which much of the metro is very similar. So it doesn't matter so much exactly, the part of the city that you live in, depending on a few other factors. But Mount Charleston, if you live there, you want to live there, and you want to live there for very specific reasons. With that being the case, once you own a home there, the only people you're going to be able to sell it to are usually people who either maybe investors that want to do an Airbnb or try to rent it out, something like that, or people who want that very specific style of living just like you did. And that pool of people is going to be much smaller than the pool of people who just want to live in the Las Vegas metro, or who don't really care where in the Las Vegas metro you live. So if you're thinking about buying this Mount Charleston home, make sure you go into this sale with already the thought in your head that I might not be able to get rid of this property in a month or two. It might take 6 months to find a seller. It might take a year to find a seller. It depends on the home and the price point and the market, of course. All of those things kind of affect how quickly you can sell your home. But this is not going to be a place to buy a home and then, just live in it for like a few months and then quickly flip it. Because like I said, the demand for homes in the area are not that high because it's a very specific person that would be buying that home. So just keep that in mind, guys. And with that, there's probably some other videos popping up on the screen now or shortly. So if you have questions about other areas of the city, make sure you check out my other videos. Go over to my channel, subscribe to as many videos as you like, subscribe to my channel, all that sort of stuff, guys. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, maybe you need some help or you know somebody that needs some help, please reach out to me. My contact information is in my channel and it's also below on this video. I will be absolutely happy and thrilled to help you guys out. And with that, please stay tuned for more content. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.